Education is arguably the most important thing societies do. It can transform lives, it can support the economy, it can cohere communities and society itself. We would all agree that education is very, very important. Do we just think for a minute the commitment to educate someone throughout the life course, that is a truly remarkable human achievement. My argument today is that education is not only important, it's too important. Too important for what, you might say? To be treated as a political football. Recognize him? A slightly younger Tony Blair. Remember the slogan? Education, education, education. When a politician or a minister turns round and says, "I am passionate about education reform," my heart sinks. Why should that be the case? Let's just consider what's been going on. Many of them treat education as some kind of political plaything, what you at Keep refers to as the biggest train set in the world. There's constant change tied to ministerial careers. Everybody wants to make their mark, but in double quick time. And there is, crucially, the deliberate manufacture of conflict within the debate, the creation of polarities and dichotomies that should not exist. And there is a complete absence of policy memory. It would seem that politicians suffer from an advanced case of policy amnesia in their unwillingness to actually learn from the past. And why? Because everything has to be shiny and new. And what is the result of all of this? One of the major results is that there is no slow accumulation of our wisdom about education. Everything suffers under the zigzagging of policy. And what does this mean for all of us? Well, the turbulence tires teachers, it puzzles parents and employers, and leaves us with a general sense of discontent. Nothing is right. Now, it doesn't have to be like this. We can actually have a different type of English education revolution. My argument here today is this. I'm arguing for a revolution that's based on moderation, on deliberation, on agreement. Now, that within the English education system would be revolutionary indeed. How might we go about this? Well, first of all, we've got to find some way of distancing education from party politics. Now, they manage to do this in other countries far better than we do. We should slow down the political process so more people can become involved. Fast politics exclude. We should sit down and deliberate, actually look at the evidence, rather than education policy being based on political whim. And here we come to the most radical part of all. We should actually seek agreement. How could we do that? Well, first of all, I think we should start by considering our values. I'll make an observation at this particular point. Politicians are obsessed with structures, whether it be school structures or qualification structures. It is much easier to get agreement around values than it is about structures, because structures are the main source of conflict within our educational system currently. And where would I start when it comes to a debate about values? I'll start with three, but there'll be others. First of all, that everybody counts, everybody can be educated, everybody's educable, everybody can think as well as do. It is part of the human condition to be able to do both. Secondly, we should have a law of care. Those who need the most will get the most, not the inverse of law of care, where those who have get. And thirdly, it is about holism. And here I come to another very radical suggestion. Perhaps we can begin to move from the world of versus to the world of and. If you think about the way the debate is being conducted currently, subjects versus real-life experience, knowledge versus skills. No, it's subjects and real-life experience, and it's knowledge and skills. I noticed today that Prime Minister David Cameron had sent a goodwill message to the conference. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister and his Secretary of State still occupy the world of verses. I would like to make an invitation to the Prime Minister and Michael Gove today to join me and others in the road away from verses to the world of and. And if we went down that road together, we'd end up in a much more interesting place than we are at the moment. We also need to think more ecologically about education. Perhaps in this journey, we could begin to discuss this. Now, you recognize Bruce. He's a shark in Finding Nemo, a very good film, by the way. Now, Bruce begins to realize that he's having an ecological effect on the reef. In fact, Bruce is having a rather dramatic ecological effect on the reef. Now, Bruce is persuaded to think ecologically. He says, I'm not a mindless eating machine. Yes, I must change my ways. Fish are friends, not food. Now, if Bruce can do it, politicians can do it. My pledge to you today is about a pledge. I want to pledge a Hippocratic oath for education. Here we see a picture, in a minute, of medical students in the United States making a medical pledge, the original Hippocratic oath. My argument today is that we need a Hippocratic oath for education that embodies our very basic values, the ones that we've been hearing about today, about learners and creativity and nurturing those talents. And in testament to the great human ecologist Urie Bronfenbrenner, I want to talk briefly about the three ecological levels of a Hippocratic oath for education that I will work for from here on in. First of all, the micro-ecological level of the learner, where the teacher dedicates themselves to the nurturing and development of that learner through thick or thin. Secondly, at the meso level of the area, that head teachers and principals, who are some of the most voracious sharks I know, by the way, dedicate themselves to everybody in the area, not just their children and pupils in their own school. And if they did that, I'd be far less exercised about free schools, academies, state schools and colleges, because they all would have taken the pledge. And thirdly, politicians in their national macroecology decide to offer real leadership by actually giving power away. If you're confident, you don't have to hold power close to your chest. You can give power away to the levels below, safe in the knowledge that those on the ground know better than you the conditions for sustainable and lasting change. But I will leave you with a warning. If we do not take this kind of direction, all the great ideas that we've heard here today, will find it very difficult to see light of day inside our school system. We have to bring about a change in the relationship between education and politics. Remember, good ideas do not simply emerge because they're good. They emerge because we create the conditions for their realization. And that's perhaps what I'm referring to when I talk about the need for a real English education revolution. Thank you very much.